Total Screen proudly presents their official podcast, On Screen, with your hosts, Tyson Gifford and William Rohrig. Hello, everybody, and welcome to On Screen, the official podcast of the Total Screen. My name is Tyson.
My name is Will.
And today we are going to be talking about Season 2 of The Sandman. This is the final season of The Sandman. We're going to be talking about the entire season, plus the bonus episode that brings everything to a close. We also have our typical On the Horizon segment, where we talk about what's coming up in the next week or so. And we have an On Beat segment, where we've got some trailers to go over. No regular news stories, just trailers this week. Not many from Gamescom, even though that happened this week, just because there wasn't too terribly much from there that interested us. But we've got a few trailers to go over in that segment. But let's get things started with On the Horizon. On the Horizon. On the Horizon, as I mentioned, is where we talk about what's coming up in the next week or so. Basically stuff that's on the horizon. So first things up, Upload. Their final season comes on Monday, August 25th to Amazon Prime. I believe it's season 4, but it's the final season of the show. This is the Greg Daniels show on Amazon about like the afterlife. It's not as good as the other Parks and Rec involved writer that did an afterlife comedy. There's another Parks and Rec and Office writer that did a better afterlife comedy, but this one I still enjoyed. Will, you did not enjoy Upload.
I mean, I don't know. I just didn't find it funny.
Yeah, because you didn't like either of the Greg Daniels stuff after The Office, right? Because you didn't like Upload or Space Force either.
Yeah, Space Force. I don't know. Like, I wanted to like Space Force. I like it to some level, but again, it just failed to like be funny, very funny. Like, I don't know.
It sounds like maybe Greg Daniels wasn't the part of The Office that you enjoyed. And
I don't know. I'm not gonna.
I think maybe you should raise your hand if you're sure. Next up, we have Gears of War Reloaded. This is coming on Tuesday, August 26th to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X. This is the Gears of War remastered of the first game, right?
Yeah, the first game.
And then on the same day, also Tuesday, August 26th, Helldivers 2 is coming to Xbox Series X. So it's like a little cross-platform day.
And I sleep. Oh man, I sleep.
You could play Gears of War on your PS5 and Helldivers 2 on your Series X.
You sure can.
Interesting day.
Yeah.
Then on Wednesday, August 27th, The Terminal List Dark Wolf comes to Amazon Prime. This is a prequel spin-off to the Chris Pratt-led The Terminal List series from Amazon Prime. But this one stars Taylor Kitsch, who is from basically the same unit as Chris Pratt's character from the other one, but this is like about his character and it's a prequel series. Luke Hemsworth is also in this. So the new Witcher is also in this. Then we have Story of Seasons Grand Bazar is coming on Wednesday, August 27th to PC and Switch, as well as the Switch 2. The Thursday Murder Club. So this is like, it's similar in premise to Only Murders in the Building, which is like a Hulu series. Basically, it's a bunch of like old people that are obsessed with true crime podcasts that are like solving a murder. And normally I wouldn't put too much interest in something like this and put it on the list. But you look at who's involved in this and it's kind of interesting. It's being directed by Chris Columbus, who directed Home Alone and also directed the first 2 Harry Potter movies. He also did like Bicentennial Man and some other stuff. But then the cast is pretty crazy. It's led by Helen Mirren, Ben Kingsley, Pierce Brosnan, David Tennant, and Richard E. Grant, which means it's got the sexiest old lady of all time, 1 Gandhi, 1 Bond, and 2 The Doctors.
That's funny.
That's coming on Thursday, August 28th to Netflix. It's a movie. Then Kirby in the Forgotten Land, Nintendo Switch 2 edition, plus Star-Crossed World, rolls right off the tongue. Coming on Thursday, August 28th to Switch 2. Not coming to PS5, I don't think. Then Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater is also coming on Thursday, August 28th to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X. Are you getting that one? Are you a fan of the Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater game.
I liked Snake Eater. I don't know if I'm gonna get this remake or do day one this remake.
I heard they asked Kojima if he was gonna play it, and he laughed and said no.
Yeah, he said no.
How about this one, though? I think you're gonna get this game. Shinobi Art of Vengeance is coming on Friday, August 29th to PC.
I am definitely getting that game, yes. For Switch.
Coming to PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, and Switch. Not Switch 2, but it'll play on Switch 2. It doesn't really, I guess, need a Switch 2 update unless it's got some 4K visuals. I don't know. That one's not pixel art like the other one's pixel art.
No, it's 2D. It looks like hand-drawn art. That looks like good style, but it's not a game that looks like it's like, oh my god, I need that on Switch 2. Switch is fine.
You know what's interesting though about Switch 2 games of with simple art styles that you don't think would normally need Switch 2 is that they can do other interesting things. I heard that Silk Song is going to run at 120 on Switch 2.
I heard that, yeah. Interesting.
That's interesting. That would be an interesting thing just to run these games that, they don't visually need a Switch 2, but, might as well put a free update and make it run at 120. But then we've got The Roses coming to theaters on Friday, August 29th. This is Benedict Cumberbatch. It's about a couple going through a process of trying to get a divorce, but they're really fighting about it, and it's getting physical.
Oh, it's War of the Roses, isn't it? That's it.
Basically. That's what it's called.
I saw a thing was remakes that leave off part of the title.
Yeah, there you go.
The Poseidon Adventure. I think the remake was Poseidon.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's now this is The Roses instead of War of the Roses.
But it's funny because the War of the Roses that the movie War of the Roses was named after was actually a war, a real war.
Yeah, like a British war. It wasn't a couple fighting.
Yeah, it's actually the basis. It's one of the primary inspirations for Game of Thrones.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's maybe that's why they shortened it, just to, cut off confusion. Because now, more people know what the War of the Roses is because of Game of Thrones.
Oh, yeah. Instead of, the movie that came out ages ago.
Yeah. Also coming out in theaters on Friday, August 29th is Caught Stealing. This is the new Darren Aronofsky film starring Austin Butler and Matt Smith. Looks really fun. It has almost Coen Brother kind of vibe to it. So
it does. Yeah.
I want to see that one. And then at long last, also coming on Friday, August 29th, after 2 years.
2 years.
In theaters, is The Toxic Avenger.
By the way, this movie has been finished for a while. They had
this movie was shown 2 years ago.
Yeah, this was shown 2 years ago. Yes, it's been finished. They've just had difficulty finding a distributor for the film, which they finally did recently. So
this version has got Peter Dinklage in the titular role. It's also got Kevin Bacon. There's another big Elijah Wood. That's the other big.
Yeah, Elijah Wood's in it. Yeah.
So some big names attached to a remake of a trauma film. It's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, crazy. Apparently, for the trailer, it's gory. It's crazy. Apparently, it's so crazy. Nobody wants to touch it.
Yeah. I mean, it's a trauma film,
Yeah, right, yeah.
But it's finally coming. So you can check that out in limited theaters on Friday, August 29th. That's it for our On the Horizon segment. And now we're going to move on to On Beat. On Beat. This week on Beat, we've only got trailers to go over. No other news stories because nothing was really all that interesting, especially not GDC.
You mean GDC. Gamescom?
Gamescom, that's it.
Okay. Yeah,
especially Gamescom was not interesting for the most part. But we've got some trailers to go over. 2 of them are actually from Gamescom, but only one of them's for a game. But let's get started with Rabbit Trap. This is an interesting it has an elevated horror kind of vibe or thriller kind of vibe to it. It's Dev Patel, and it's got a story that seems to be invoking maybe it has something to do with the Fae.
Seems like it has to do with fairies as part of its plot, and it seems real heavy psychological horror.
Mm-hmm. It looks interesting, and Dev Patel is somebody to pay attention to. Next up, we've got Black Rabbit. So we went from Rabbit Trap to Black Rabbit. This movie stars Jason Bateman and Jude Law as brothers, with Jason Bateman's brother being kind of a fuck up who incurs a bunch of debt and gets his brother unfortunately involved into it. It's basically about the struggle of them trying to pay back this debt and face violence from the collectors and stuff. But yeah, I actually heard about this one quite a bit because I listened to the Smartless podcast, and Jason Bateman is one of the hosts on that, and they were making fun of him because he has this like ratty beard and long hair.
Yeah.
And he grew that out. That's not like a wig or anything. It's not a wig or a
nice
beard. So he grew that out and he was stuck with it. So like while they were podcasting, he had this like ratty beard and they're like, oh, when are you going to shave that beard? And he's like, well, I'm still filming. So it's interesting to finally see like actual footage from that now out in the open. That's a Netflix movie that's coming out soon. Now we get to the Gamescom stuff. This is the only game from Gamescom, and it wasn't even in the main show for the Gamescom opening night live. This was from the pre-show. There's a lot of people talking about random game here that they liked, random game there that they liked. I've heard a lot of people that the one game that they were talking about from this show was the like Lego Batman game, for example. But that wasn't as exciting to us, I think, as one of the games that was shown in the pre-show, which is called Densha Attack, which in Japan, Densha means train, and so Densha Attack. They put that together. And yeah, it's just a crazy game. It looks like a PS2 era game. And I don't mean that like, oh, it looks visually bad or something. I mean like it has that like rampant, wild Japanese creativity you'd expect from like the same generation that gave us, you know, Katamari and like just all the weird games that we got in that generation from Japan. This like feels like it fits right there. You're controlling a train. You're flipping the train sideways and grinding across the rails, jumping on walls like Mario Kart 8 style, or not Mario Kart World style.
Like a Tony Hawk.
Yeah.
Like Tony Hawk where you're a train.
And then fighting mechas, and it's just like a wild-ass game.
Yeah, it's wild. It looks insane. It looks incredibly fun. Like, I can't believe, like, more people aren't talking about this game.
Yeah.
Because, like, they hit it in the pre-show. It's like...
Yeah, this is the game that I think people slept on, that more people need to be talking about. But not only that, but the unfortunate thing about this game is that no Switch 2.
Nope. It's only Xbox, PC, and PS5.
Yeah. Hopefully it eventually finds its way to Switch 2, but with the fact that nobody's talking about the game, kind of dwindles my hope in that regard a little bit. So if this was announced in a Nintendo Direct, I think people would be talking about this.
I will say, unlike Summer Games Fest, there wasn't a total lack of Switch 2 announcements. I don't know if, like, this, nothing big enough for, like, a Gamescom segment, but I'm just gonna throw it out there. I mean, Switch 2 got the new Lego Batman game. They announced Indiana Jones, the recent Indiana Jones games for Switch 2.
That's coming next year, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a pretty big announcement for the system. That's about it.
No, there was another one. What was the other one?
I can't remember it. That's why I said that's
Bugsy.
Oh, yeah, 4D. Bubsy 4D, which was also on the pre-show.
Yeah.
That was at the actual, yeah, Bubsy 4D, that's coming to Switch 2. So we got more Switch 2 games than we did at Summer Games Fest, at least.
See, that's interesting to me because Summer Games Fest happened after the Switch 2 launch. I mean, albeit like right after the Switch 2 launch, like a couple days after, I think. And there was like nothing. And what we kind of come to the conclusion about why that is the case is that they were just holding off for a Switch Direct, a Nintendo Direct, because that's happened in the past where like a game's been announced like for a system, for like a bunch of systems. And even if that game is going to be day and date on like the Switch, like it wasn't announced for the Switch until it was at a Nintendo Direct.
And then we got a developer, a third party partner direct last month, which showed like a bunch of games, but nothing major. And most of the announcements were for Switch 1.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, so they're clearly not waiting on Direct, right?
But this is interesting because they actually, for the first time at like a Keighley event, actually showed Switch 2 games in development, so that was kind of cool that they actually had that. So we got to see a Switch 2 logo at a Keighley event, I guess. That's like the takeaway from that.
That's the takeaway. We saw Switch 2 logo.
Yeah. And then the last trailer we're going to talk about is also from Gamescom, but this isn't for a game. It's for Fallout Season 2. This is our first footage of Season 2. And when we were chatting, watching the event together, and they were up on stage, and for a while, like the way they were wording things, it was like, did they seriously like fly the actors down and the writers down, and they're literally just going to talk about it on the stage and not show anything?
Yeah. Which I didn't think was going to be the case. Like, but it was like
they were playing like that was the case. They were joking, like saying like, oh, when we do show something, it was
if
like,
it was Paul Rudd,
Paul
Rudd, he would have flown out there just to show the
Mac and Me,
the scene for Mac and Me,
and
that would be it,
and it would be worth it.
It would be worth it, yeah.
But
no, they came with the trailer. Obviously, if you've seen the show, if you enjoyed season 1, the trailer looks great. It's got...
Well, notably, season 1 ended with a big hint.
Yes.
It ended with a big hint of where they were going with season 2. You saw New Vegas.
Getting to it, yeah. Like, if you only watch the show, and if you don't know Fallout, like, New Vegas probably means nothing to it. It's another location. But to people like me who've played the games, especially played Fallout New Vegas, New Vegas is very significant, a very special place. The season finale, they were headed there, and now we're, like, actually going there, and we're starting to see, like, a lot of familiar things from New Vegas. Like, we're seeing Mr. House, who runs...
Justin Theroux.
Yep. He runs New Vegas. We're seeing, like, one of the other factions, Caesar's Army, which is, like, a really sadistic fascist force trying to take over the western side of the country. In New Vegas, they come into conflict with the new California Republic, and there's, like, this big war between them and Caesar's Army. And basically, in New Vegas, you get tasked with, like, either joining the new California Republic or joining Caesar's Army, or you could just side with Mr. House and, like, destroy them both. But yeah, so we saw that. That's going to be awesome. And then they ended it on something you didn't see, and something that's also in New Vegas.
It's in
that
a lot of the games, though, apparently.
It's in a lot of games, yeah. One of the most fearsome things you can run into, you see a Death Claw. And it's so funny, like, seeing the Death Claws, because, like, they're enemies in the game, but they're not just, like, any enemy. They're, like, strong as hell. You can go in with, like, a high-level character with, like, some of, like, the best armor and stats in the game and, like, a mini nuke, and you still struggle to kill just one of them. You're still struggling to just kill one of them, because, like, they take damage like crazy. They just, like, straight up murder you. So it's like, oh yeah.
What I thought was the funniest thing was that before the trailer played, Jeff was asking Jonathan Nolan and stuff like, are we going to see more flashbacks or something of Walton Goggins' character before he was, and then, like, he's, like, hinting at it, like,
trailer.
Well, maybe. And then we watch the trailer, it's like half the trailer.
Half the
It's
trailer,
like flashbacks of Walton Goggins' character before he was the ghoul.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like, maybe. Yeah, of course.
I thought that was funny. It was like half the trailer, basically.
Oh, yeah. That was pretty funny. I'm looking forward to it. It was an awesome trailer. It got me hyped to watch the season 2. And, like, that's, like, December. So that's still ways out.
Mm-hmm.
No, that was an awesome trailer. Like, kudos to them.
Yeah, that brings it to a close for our Unbeat segment, and that leaves only full spoilers. This week on Full Spoilers, as I've mentioned, we are going to be talking about Season 2 of Sandman in its entirety, as well as the last bonus episode, which follows Death.
Yeah, the bonus episode, which is based entirely off the spin-off series Death, the High Cost of Living. Because I'm guessing they wanted to adapt that at some point and probably figured, okay, this is probably the only chance we're going to get.
So they made a bunch of comments about how they were ending it at Season 2 because it's the end of Dream's story, and that's what they really wanted to focus on, and so it's natural for them to end it here. But apparently, like, they cut out, like, 4+ arcs from the comics, which means that that doesn't really hold a lot of authenticity to those comments,
Yeah, I think that's like bullshit, because I'm thinking like, oh yeah, you're ending at season 2 because there's like so much, like there's so many chapters of the Sandman. It's like, no, they clearly wanted to do more than 2 seasons.
Yeah, and we don't mean chapters after Dream. We mean like they went from the 4th arc to like the 7th arc,
Right, yeah, exactly. So I don't buy that they're like, well, we just naturally got to the point where Dream exited the story and we want to end it there. It's like, no, you didn't.
Apparently Netflix wanted to wrap things up, and there were other
extenuating,
things that we want to really mention.
Extenuating circumstances also like hastened the demise of this series.
So what did you think of the series this season overall as a whole?
I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was pretty well done. I kind of wish that the whole season like focused on one narrative instead of like looking back, I'm not too much of a fan of the first narrative. Like, I guess it does set up the second part where, like, it's the beginning of, like, when Dream does start to change.
Yeah, there's, like, 4 arcs, I think, in this season. Yeah. They feed into each other, but, like I said, it feels like there's some missing stuff, too. Like, you can feel that there's stuff missing.
Yes, yeah, like, the evolution, it works well enough, but yeah, there's like, definitely stuff missing in between. But, like, yeah, like, the first storyline where Dream, he's with his family, he's goaded by desire about Narda, and then he just abruptly makes the decision that, like, he realizes, like, he's guilty for Narda, like, being trapped in hell, and, like, he's gonna now go on a quest to save her. I thought, okay, alright, that's cool. And that is, like, the beginning of, like, when Dream does start to change, right?
Mm-hmm.
It does show the beginning, but I just thought, like, it was kind of, like, okay. I liked it initially because I liked the focus was entirely on the supernatural characters, and it wasn't like season 1 where it was entirely focused on the human characters with Dream showing up. So, like, it was interesting to see that side of it entirely for the first time.
I didn't like the very beginning of the arc, especially because they just didn't do much with it.
Yeah,
they didn't really do much with Nada. They brought her up as, like, this really important thing. They kind of resolved it, and then they just, like, never talked about her again.
Yeah. She, like, disappears. That's my complaint about it, is it feels like things just happen. And also, they do these really dumb manipulative things throughout the show. The first episode, he decides he's going to hell to free Narda, and then, like, it goes to hell. It shows, like, Lucifer and her demons, and she's promising, you know, that she's gonna make Dream suffer. Dream comes to hell, I'm gonna make him suffer, and you're like, ooh, what's gonna happen? And then the next episode is like, oh, I'm leaving hell, here's the key. She's like, oh, that is your suffering. So I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna give you the key to hell, and I'd say that's your suffering, so, like, we can try to say, oh, that's consistent with what I just said an episode earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I said, like, a lot of the beginning of this arc I didn't like. What I really liked was him having to deal with hell.
Right,
like,
yeah.
Once he had hell and in his possession, and, like, all the gods came knocking at his door, basically, that was probably, like, my favorite part of the whole season.
Oh, yeah, that was my favorite that was, like, my favorite episode of the season, because it was interesting, him having this dilemma, and all these characters showing up, all these, like, really, like, interesting, freaky characters, and you're just, like, wondering, okay, who is he gonna go? And I think I like
no humans. It was just straight up.
It was 2 episodes for that plotline, really. It was 2 episodes, and no humans, and you got to meet, like, all kinds of characters that you would see later throughout the series. This is your introduction to the Faith characters, your introduction to Loki and Pip, and these other characters that would show up, and then there's characters that were only for that plot line, like the demon. A lot of characters involved in that, but I think I liked the ending to that story, though, because I think he made what I thought was, like, a novel and appropriate choice. He gave the key to the angels.
Yeah.
Who showed up, yeah.
It was clever in his methodology, too. Not just, like, his choice, but, like, the way he pushed on Azazel, the demon character.
Yeah.
Who, like, thought he had Dream cornered, and the way he, like, re-cornered him and stuff, I thought was, like, kind of clever and smart in, like, a way that you'd imagine a conflict with these incomparably powerful beings would be like.
Oh, right, yeah. Azazel made the mistake because he thought he could corner Dream in his own room somehow. Yeah. Yeah.
And it seemed like he did.
It seemed like, he did, yeah.
And then the way he turned the tables on him was like, oh, okay, yeah, that actually makes sense. That's not just like I'm so powerful, it doesn't matter what you say. It wasn't like that. It was like, no, I clearly gave you a rule and you broke it.
Right,
and you didn't even realize you broke it, but you did.
Yeah.
And I thought that was clever. Like, I was like, oh, that's such a good gotcha moment. It's similar to, like, the end of the season 1 arc with God, I can't think of the actor's name right now. The guy who played Lupin in Harry Potter, which is meaningless to you.
Yeah, thank you. I know exactly who you're talking about.
The mortal kid that had one object of dreams or whatever, then he was, like, basically trying to take over. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh,
like,
from the first season?
Yes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The way he kind of turned the tables on him, that's what it kind of reminded me of. It's like, okay, this is a clever table turn moment. That was probably my favorite, I wouldn't say arc because it's just like 2 episodes, but my favorite like part, I think, of the season as like a whole. After that, like it just started kind of slipping in quality for me. I just wasn't too into
I thought like I was
him
like
stalking his ex.
Yeah, I wasn't like into that. Like the whole, that's where like, for me it kind of faltered because I thought, oh, that's a strong start. I really like that storyline. And then he starts looking for destruction, and that's where I felt like it gets pretty weak.
I think like, once it got into the stuff with destruction, it was good, but like all the setup stuff where he was like secretly using it to stalk his ex and stuff feels petty and weird and not really like, fun to watch, you know?
Like they were visiting people and people were dying.
Yeah.
And that turned out like destruction was just killing those people because he didn't want to be found.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the actor from the start. I like the character. I like, I like it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like once it actually got to destruction and stuff, it was like, okay, this is kind of interesting. And, but all the setup before that was just like, it just was not doing it for me. Well, then we get to the mid-season arc. The mid-season arc focused on...
Oh, yeah. We meet Morpheus' son.
Morpheus' son.
Which actually comes about, it's part of the quest to find destruction, actually. Mm-hmm. It comes about...
They feed into each other, Like,
they feed... Yeah, that's how his son comes up, or comes up to Orpheus. And, and before Orpheus goes to seek out his son in the modern day, we get the backstory of his son and how that happened.
Yeah.
So we get a whole episode dedicated to the backstory of Orpheus' son.
I think the story there is interesting. I like the character of Orpheus, and I like how he kind of ended up as this like just head that's just kind of miserable and like being taken care of. Like all that.
He's a classic like Greek tragic figure, like
all that aspect of the story I liked. What I didn't like was the fact that we'd never heard about this character before, and he just kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah, we didn't know
he has a son and he really loves him and stuff, and it's like, wait, this was never in play in anything we'd seen up to this point.
To be fair, to defend it, Morpheus would never have had a reason to bring him up before.
Yeah, but still, it feels like when a sitcom like just suddenly says like, oh, and there's a third sibling in this family that you didn't know about, It's like,
especially
what?
as estranged as they were, and how distant Morpheus could be, before he began to change, as we saw.
But to me, this felt like when they added like 7 to like Married with Children or something.
Right, yeah.
It's like, it felt like really forced in, and I don't know if it's like that in the comics or not, if it's just like a sudden introduction thing where it's like, okay. But it just felt off to me. Like, I like the character, I like how he is after. I didn't really like the character before, but when he's basically just ahead, I thought that was interesting.
I guess this also confirms that the Endless can have children with mortals, can have mortal children.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
which I didn't know before, so...
Well, I don't know. Is he mortal?
Yeah, his mother was mortal.
Yeah, but was he mortal? Because he was
mortal because he... Well, yeah, because he talked to Death and Death granted him immortality. That was like part of the storyline. He sought immortality from Death after it happened because he thought he was going to go to Hades and rescue his lover, and he was going to be with her forever.
But also, like, his mom was she mortal because she was at...
They don't really talk about his mom.
She was at Dream's funeral or whatever. She's like credited in the cast.
Yeah, I think she was supposed to be mortal.
Yeah. It just felt like sudden, and I really didn't like the way it just kind of jumped into there. And then it led to probably my least favorite arc of the whole season, which is the mid-season of this. You didn't watch it until the whole season was out, so you didn't see like the mid-season cliffhanger. The mid-season cliffhanger was that he had killed his son.
Oh, yeah.
Like, out of love. That was the mid-season cliffhanger, was like, the fates cut his string. And it was like,
okay, yeah, that's how it... And I didn't even know there was a cliffhanger. I thought all the episodes dropped at once.
No, they dropped them just like about a month apart, I think. But,
that's right, they did 2 parts. They did the Netflix thing.
That's the new Netflix thing, yeah.
Yeah, because, like, Morpheus killing his son is the setup for the final arc of the series, which is the death of Morpheus. Which
I really hated this arc.
Yeah, yeah.
I really hated it, and it's not just because they're killing off a character I like and Morpheus and everything's into that. It's just the idea of, like, they spend all this time, like, basically implying that Morpheus and his siblings are the most powerful entities in the entire world, even more than like gods and stuff. And now like the three fates are basically like talking down to him like he's nothing. And it's just like, it just felt like weird.
That,
like,
I mean,
it just felt inconsistent to me.
It's not that they set up that there are rules and there are laws and like,
yeah,
even the Endless aren't like above like these rules. They're not
I get
above
that,
these laws.
It was like, implied like differently. Like there's a lot of like weird inconsistencies.
So
like,
it's not like the Fates or Furious or the Furies or, you know, the kindly ones were more powerful than
the Fates and the Furious.
Yeah, the Fates and it's not like, it's not like that they're more powerful than Morpheus or like they could overpower him or anything. It's that he knew he committed a crime and he knew he had to surrender to them, you know,
yeah,
and there's like no
I get
other
that,
option.
but it's like tonally it was more played as if like, oh, now these are the real threat or something, and it felt like it shifted away from these kind of like dilemmas of incomparable beings to like this very like weird, I don't know, just even like the way they had the champion and Daniel's mom, Lita Hall, taking up a sword and like, you know, marching through like it just felt cheesy and weird.
Stabbing. And that was pretty cheesy. Yeah.
I just didn't like any of it. It's like they really just want to make them feel like this like credible threat. And instead of like focusing on the idea of the rules and the strategic element of it and like the consequences that he landed himself in, instead they're just like, oh, look how scary these people are now. And it's like,
oh yeah, yeah.
It just
and
wasn't
that part
doing
was
it for
like,
me.
Yeah, that part was cheesy because they'd spent the whole series setting up potential conflict, and then that conflict is like pretty much resolved peacefully. There's a little bloodshed or action, and they give Lita Hall a sword, and she's like stabbing people to death. And it's kind of like, oh, okay, this is a bit jarring.
Yeah, it just her involvement in it felt really forced and weird and out of place.
Also, I did like the whole kidnapping plot with Pip and Loki. I thought that was tedious.
I liked Pip. I
liked
Loki
Pip.
Didn't really sell
Loki
it for me.
I was not sold on this version of Loki. I was just,
I think all the Norse gods kind of really didn't click with me, you know?
Yeah, they didn't click, but but Odin and Thor, at least they have like a lot of screen time. Loki gets like a lot of screen time, and he's just not a good version of Loki. He's like Dollar General David Bowie.
It's funny because we've had such good versions of these three characters since they're from like Norse mythology, you know?
Yeah.
Not just from like Marvel and stuff, but I mean like we had like the Odin from like American Gods, which is basically the same Odin that's in this because it's also Neil Gaiman, you know?
Yeah. Is American Gods supposed to be the Sandman universe?
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's supposed to all tie together.
Oh, okay.
And like subtly because American Gods wasn't DC, but like there's like winks and nods to it and stuff.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's basically supposed to be the same version of Odin that we saw in like American Gods and stuff. And it's like in American Gods he was like fascinating, and in this he's like boring. You know?
Yeah, he's boring. But he has so little screen time, you don't really notice or care. But man, like Loki gets so much more screen time in this. I like Pip. Pip is charming, but I also think like that's Jack Gleason.
That's weird, man. That's Joffrey.
Yeah, that's Joffrey. Yeah. I was like, oh, that's Jack Gleason. I was like, he does a fantastic job. I'm like, this guy should be in more things. You know, like it's a shame he got like so typecast as Joffrey because like he is.
Well, he
talented.
stepped away because he just didn't like the way people were like reacting to him on the street and stuff.
Yeah, people were being so mean to him. I was like, God damn. But like, man, he's so talented. He needs to be in more stuff.
Yeah, and he's really good in a role like Puck. It's like a trickster kind of role, you know? Whereas like I don't think the Loki was that great. You know? I don't think
the actor for Loki was doing like that great of a job, to be honest.
Yeah. So like just a lot of that stuff, that arc just did not work for me until after Morpheus is dead. I love the finale episode.
The funeral episode was like really good, but
I loved that episode.
Yeah.
I just hated everything that came before it.
I loved all the episodes, the characters coming together to eulogize Morpheus. I liked Daniel struggling to find his place or his purpose as the new Dream of the Endless.
Yeah, great scenes in it. When Dream's siblings were eulogizing and stuff, Desire talking about how she had like wanted to set him up and stuff.
Well,
and they should be happy that he's dead now or something, but they're not. And I thought that was like a really powerful and interesting moment. I really liked one of the strong points of the season was Delirium. It was like a really interesting character, and it was like fun watching her kind of struggle with like her own nerves and her own problems and stuff, and just kind of like her like more innocent demeanor, made her like interesting. I really liked how Destruction had that dog Barnabas and then that became Delirium's dog. Like it just like was a good fitting, cute relationship. I'd watch a show about them.
I like Destruction showing up, but not showing up
not for the funeral, yeah.
For a funeral.
For Daniel instead.
For Daniel, yeah.
I thought that was really interesting. And I liked the way that the siblings greeted Daniel when he finally met with them. Like it was all set up like, oh, you're getting invited into this like loveless, horrible family and stuff and everything. And that was kind of like the Morpheus perspective, I guess. And then he gets welcomed in and it's all like very bright and cheerful.
It's not a loveless family.
Yeah.
I think there's a point Daniel has some of Morpheus' memories and perspectives. I think Morpheus, for his part, and I think like Morpheus shares some blame in that, where like I think for his part, for most of the time, Morpheus was just like so detached. He had purposefully estranged himself from his own family.
Yeah. I like how they played into that though, even when his siblings were up eulogizing him and stuff, and they had like pointed out that, I thought he thought himself better than me, but maybe he just knew too much.
Right. Yeah.
And it gives us like interesting perspective on the kind of fractured relationship of the family and stuff that like shows like a different reason for like their reaction with Daniel and stuff. So I thought all of that was really good. Another episode that I thought was good that came before that was in the middle of like probably the worst arc, as I said, for me, is when you meet the siblings' parents.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
In particular, I loved Rufus Sewell as Time. Yeah. I really love Rufus Sewell as Time. I think he worked like perfectly as this like detached, powerful father figure.
Right, yeah. Did not really care for his creations.
Yeah. He was just a really interesting character, and very well played. It's kind of a shame that we got so little time with him, but I think it's right that we had so little time with him. Like it makes sense for his character that we only have that moment.
And it's funny because like Night doesn't come off any better. She's portrayed as like detached from her children too.
Like they kept saying like, oh, he was close to her. Then she just seemed like she just has a more positive demeanor, but she still doesn't care.
Yeah, exactly. She's nicer, but she still doesn't care. She's still detached and still, it's clear she still like views him as an annoyance, Yeah.
Before we get into the bonus episode, I want to kind of point out some of the other highlights, things that I liked in this season. Again, just like in the first season, one of the standout characters from the first season was Hobgadling, the immortal. That was the bet between Death and Dream.
Yeah, and I loved at the end, during the funeral, his conversation with Death, where like he's talking about it, and she's like, basically, okay, so are you ready? And he just says, 650 years, I thought I've seen everything, I thought I've done everything, nothing was new, but then here I am in the dream, at Dream's funeral, talking to Death. So it just turns out like you never know what's going to happen next.
Yeah. He's such a great character. I loved him. He had a similar moment in season 1 where like they said like he was having like a miserable time, like his wife and children had died or something of like the plague or like a ship accident. I can't remember what it was, but they both died. It was tragic. He was obviously miserable. Like and he was kind of being snappy and stuff when he was talking to Morpheus. Like he was obviously in a bad place and it looked like he was about to give up. And then like after all that, Dream was like, so do you want to stop now? And he said, what are you talking about? I have so much to live for. And it was so like, what?
It was like, what? You do?
Yeah. It just made like a fascinating character.
Conclusion here. He's like, he says that. He says, so no, I'm not ready yet. I want to live on.
And I think another character that I really liked, and I really liked the kind of moments that they spend with her, is Wanda, who was the guide for Dream and Delirium, the mortal guide that was guiding them around, the trans guide.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That was a brief character. It's like,
but even after,
you didn't get to spend like a lot of time with this character, but there is like a really touching scene
at her funeral,
at her funeral, where her family misgendered her on the gravestone, and Dream fixes it. He fixes it to be correct.
Yeah, I thought that was like a really powerful moment. I thought the character like was really a moment interesting, and it was really sad when she died.
That's actually like directly from the comic too. That scene. I think in the scene though, like they write over it with like lipstick or something to fix it. But in this, like he waved his hand and like he fixed it fixed it. But yeah, that scene is from the comic. It is a good scene, and then we get to see her talking to Death, and and that's like a really touching like speech too.
Death is such a great character of this series. It's such a great, like, interesting portrayal of Death, like, not just in the show, but in the comics in general. Like, the way they chose to portray Death's character is this very kind of, like, more positive, hopeful character is, like, really fascinating. And that leads us into, unless you have anything else to say before we get to the bonus episode.
Bonus round.
Let's go to the bonus episode, which focuses on Death. The episode's called Death, the High Cost of Living.
This is an adaptation of the 3-issue spin-off miniseries of the same name that was released in the 90s, which was basically Neil Gaiman's take on the class Death Takes a Holiday.
Mm-hmm. A pretty popular trope in fiction.
Yeah, a pretty popular trope in fiction. Yeah, this is the Sandman version of it. Where Death takes a holiday. She takes one day off to be mortal, and during this day she comes across a suicidal journalist who ends up tagging along with her and finding new value in life.
A suicidal journalist who just happens to be the most famous wizard in history, Merlin.
Yeah.
But no, it's Colin Morgan who played Merlin in the TV show Merlin. He was also in there was a great show that also had, one of the girls from Eternals was also in it with him, where it was about these, like, robots that were, like, it was around the same time as, like, Westworld. And it was a similar story of, like, kind of robots attaining consciousness and, like, rebelling, kind of. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was a really good show I don't see this actor too often. So whenever I do, I'm like, oh, it's that guy. I like this guy. So it was fun kind of following his character, this journalist who's just kind of obsessed with the way the world is going and how miserable it is and how dark it is and how everything's falling apart. And he just decides he's going to kill himself. And he keeps making excuses for why it's about this or that and why it's not because his girlfriend left him, but it really feels like it's because his girlfriend left him.
Yeah, like the world is terrible, is falling apart, and like there's fascism and stuff. Just feels like excuses, like he's telling himself why he's doing this. It feels like
the light in his life went out, and then that's what was left.
That's what was left. Yeah, it's excuses he's telling. He's doing it because of these reasons, and he won't admit that the reason is really because his girlfriend left him.
Yeah,
and he refuses to admit that.
Yeah, but it was such a great episode just because of Death and Death's character,
Oh yeah, Death's character, which by the way, aside from Hattie, who is a character that is familiar to the Endless, she's an immortal mortal. Aside from her, like no other characters from Sandman appear in this besides Death and her. So
yeah, it's such a good one-off episode. It's interesting how Sandman did like a bonus episode last time too, but the last one was like a split episode. It was like two separate episodes in one or something. One was was an animated one about like, the King of Cats or whatever, and the other one was about a muse. So I think it's like interesting the way they kind of tied into all that.
I like this episode. It was fine. I mean, it was nothing amazing, but it was like a nice showcase of like Death and stuff, like eventually they encounter a guy whose girlfriend overdosed and he tries to capture Death and coerce her into like bringing his girlfriend back, and she can't. And it's through that experience of the protagonist, the journalist, finds this renewed vigor for like living.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's like two kind of really interesting characters that play into there, which is you have the character of Theo. This is the one that summoned Death. That's why they ended up at this club and stuff on her day off. She just kind of goes with the flow, where everything's take her because it's her day off and she just doesn't plan. She just kind of goes where everything's take her, gets a bunch of stuff for free, somehow ends up at this club, and it turns out it's because she was summoned there. And this character, I think what's interesting about him is that he's kind of just played off like an asshole, like from the first point you meet him. And then by
very
the
antagonistic
end, it ends
to
with
Theo.
Yeah,
he's very antagonistic to the journalist.
Yeah, but by the time it ends with so much empathy. Like the storyline with him and the way everything ends on that is with so much empathy, instead of like, oh, they beat him, or he died or got what he deserved. Like Theo died and got what he deserved or anything like that. It's not any of of that. It's just like, it's just empathy.
It's just, yeah.
And I really dug that aspect of it. And then also dealing with empathy, there's the character of Jackie. Is this character we meet? He's a girl that Sexton meets that's like friends with his roommate, and
she takes an interest in Sexton. You know, he doesn't take an interest in her because he's still preoccupied about his ex-girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he doesn't want to be at that nightclub in the first place, so he's like all kinds of preoccupied.
Yeah, but it goes to an interesting place. Like when she finally discloses why she's wearing those gloves. She doesn't say it's her, but it's like very obvious.
She doesn't say, her. Yeah, it's very obvious. Like he clocks it.
Yeah.
Yeah, she tells him about her own suicide attempt, her own failed suicide attempt.
Yeah.
And how, like, despite her circumstances, her horrific circumstances, she feels it's better that she's alive.
Yeah, she said she, like, woke up in the hospital, and despite the situation she was still in at that time, she, like, immediately felt so much relief at being alive, even though she had tried to kill herself.
Yeah.
And that, I just thought that was like, oh, okay, that was a really kind of powerful monologue she had kind of going into that story, and the way kind of everything came together in the end of that episode, giving kind of Sexton reason to move on, I guess, and move past the relationship and his despair. And they also hinted at kind of like the idea of why it was his girlfriend leaving him that really is what made it suicidal, when they talked about, one of his roommates was talking about how she had a miserable time, same as Sexton, had a very similar worldview to Sexton until she had met the person that she fell in love with. And like she said, it's not even that person is necessarily like the biggest light or anything, but it's somebody that I care about, you know? And it just made it like a really interesting story. It connected a through line to that story, is what I mean.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So I dug that.
I dug that.
I thought it was
a good episode.
I still say my favorite parts of this season, though, were just the what to do with hell storyline and the funeral.
Those are the best episodes. Those are the two best episodes of the season. Yeah. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Otherwise, it was pretty inconsistent. Like I said, I really hated the last arc until it got to that part, you know?
Yeah, I felt like it was pretty uneven overall.
Yeah, but that's it. That is it for Sandman Season 2, and we won't be talking about it again because that's the end of the show.
Oh, the series is over. They're not making anymore, yeah.
Yeah. Before we finish off this podcast, though, we have our least favorite segment, which is the RIP segment, and this time it is for Terrence Stamp, who passed away at the age of 87. He was General Zod in the original Superman movies, so sad to see an iconic figure go, but he lived a full life, and we all gotta go at some point, even Morpheus.
Yeah, we sure do. Rip Terrence Stamp, though, you were a real one.
Yep. That's it, though. We don't have anything planned for next week yet, so just stay tuned. You'll find out when the podcast comes out, what we're covering next week. But until then, thank you everybody for listening. You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky. I'm at Tyson Gifford. You can follow Will on both of those platforms. He is at Voxel Hero. You can check out our website, thetotalscreen.com. If you go to our website and open up a container story for any of our podcast episodes and scroll down to the bottom paragraph, you'll find all the relevant links to our SoundCloud page, our RSS feed, all the social account stuff. It's all there. So check that out as well. You can also subscribe to the podcast in your favorite podcast client of choice, like Apple Podcast or Pocket Cast, and the entire backlog of our podcast, as well as additional content, is available on our YouTube channel, so check that out there as well. Until next week, thank you everybody for listening. Night.
Night.
Thank you for listening to the OnScreen podcast, the official podcast of The Total Screen. Visit our website at thetotalscreen.com. This podcast can be found on any major podcast client, including Pocket Cast and Apple Podcast. The entire backlog of this podcast and other content can be found on our YouTube channel.